What's up, guys? It's your boy Zawolki, back out with some more of Zawolki content, and today we're going to take a look at the first footage of the Titan sub that was imploded last year. In June, I was actually on vacation when this happened. I couldn't imagine what it was like. When I first looked at it, I was like, what is this? And I just kind of started watching it and stuff like that. And I was kind of hooked because the whole submersible, it going down to the Titanic and stuff like that. And then the unfortunate event of it being imploded. The one that bothers me the most is the child that was in there kind of begged his dad, like, I don't want to go in there. And the dad was like, just come on, and coerced him to go in. And unfortunately, they met their demise. So we're going to be able to take a look at the first footage of the Titan sub wreck that was revealed. I do believe this was the footage from last year. They didn't want to show it because of, I'm guessing because of time. So I definitely want to take a look at this. But before we go any further, if you guys could do me a solid favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel by hitting that wiper icon down at the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that Zawolki myself has posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And with that being said, let's get into the video.
A story that we covered here on LiveNOW extensively last June when it first happened. Take a look at this. The Titan submersible implosion. That's the story. Well, the first footage of the wreckage has been revealed as new evidence emerges during this U.S. Coast Guard Marine Board hearing. Take a look at that. This is brand new. This is surfaced during this hearing this week there, I believe, in Charleston, South Carolina.
Wow.
Now, the video shows...
So this is the tail. So, of course, this is not going to be the part that imploded. People just don't understand what everything did when this happened. Somebody's talked about this big, huge ratchet strap that was around this submersible, which is kind of scary to see a ratchet strap hold this thing together. I'm guessing the side panels, whatever have you, but...
was the catastrophic implosion of the 22-foot submersible in June of last year, resulting in the loss of all 5 people aboard. Now, for more on the hearing and the images we're seeing of the sub, the Titan sub there, we're going to be joined by our longtime friend, maritime expert, Sal Mercogliano, and he joins me. Sal, good to see you here. We had to get you on. We had to do a follow-up on this because we're seeing these images for the very first time. What answers are you hoping to get from this investigation? Did you know that this Coast Guard Marine Board hearing was happening this week? It kind of, from my vantage point, it kind of snuck up on us.
Yeah, it was kind of low-key. They were not announcing it very large, but it was going to be a 2-week hearing where they're really bringing in OceanGate employees and a lot of personnel to kind of get the backstory to find out how this event actually unfolded. So what we've heard so...
They cheaped out on parts and tried to make it less heavy, but you're talking about how much pounds per inch going down almost 4,000 feet in the water. I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
So far in the first couple of days here.
I'm not a scientist, and I know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to be... it's ridiculous that these people didn't...
Is some of the engineers, some of the workers who have been on the project, and what you're seeing on here right now, this imagery...
Again, too, the way that they controlled it was by a controller. Somebody showed me a picture of it that they found. It was like amongst some debris. It was ridiculous. Is
part of the submersible. It's actually the back part of the submersible. This is a part that wasn't within the pressure vessel. So that's why you see it in an entirely kind of one piece here. It actually would have come off the back end.
All right, so, you know, I wanted to ask, too, because this was captured just 4 days after the submersible imploded. Jeez. Why do you think it took us so long to see some of this footage here? I mean, why do we need a hearing for this?
Legal reasons.
To reveal itself.
Because I guarantee the families that lost their loved ones, they're probably suing the company.
so to speak. And to your point, Sal, you and I had discussed at the time that a large chunk of this submersible was completely pulverized by the pressure. So I think viewers might be surprised that they are seeing that large chunk intact there.
Yeah, one of the things we got from the hearing so far was some pretty graphic discussions of what happened within the sphere.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, this is a very unique type of submersible. This is not a solid titanium sphere. It's actually two
Carbon
ends
fiber.
of titanium spheres with a carbon fiber module in between it. And what
That's
basically they
why.
believe happened is one end of this sphere basically detached or allowed water to come in, and those sections basically imploded together and in a time frame
So it
that
went.
even the people on board would not have been able to process themselves. It was almost instantaneous. But what we're getting now is a TikTok of the events leading up to the event. But most importantly, we're hearing from people like the engineer you see right there, who's really talking about his problems he had with how OceanGate was operating. And what we're hearing here is like consistent problems with this vessel. And what's amazing is there was no one to appeal this to, because this was an unclassified vessel. And I think that's what the Coast Guard really wants to find out about, is whether or not there should have been some sort of oversight, including their own, of this event.
Sal, I wanted to bring up, too, you mentioned some of the communications that were revealed between those on the sub, on the ocean floor, and those above in the vessel, tracking and monitoring their movements here. One of the last messages that was read was this: we're all good here. Do you have any idea how much the crew knew before the sub imploded? Has that been revealed in this hearing?
Yeah, listening to some of the people involved, like the dropping of weights, that was standard. When you bring a submersible down to the bottom, you don't have tanks on a submarine to flood. You use basically weights. In this case, they were using steel pipes, and they would create negative buoyancy. In other words, they free fall down to the bottom. And as they get closer to the bottom, they shed weight to create what's called neutral buoyancy. That allows them to maneuver at depth without coming up or down. And based on the communications, everything was operating normally. There did not seem to be any major issues. There was no indication at all that there was an accident. And based on the reports of everyone so far, and again, we've only had a couple of days of the hearing, is the events that unfolded were nearly instantaneous. That it was they did not know what was going to happen. The problem is that there were indicators long before this that there should have been more concern, including the owner CEO who was piloting this vessel. There was a very graphic description of him piloting a sister ship of this, the first version of this vessel, and nearly colliding with another underwater shipwreck. This is the Andrea Doria.
Yeah, Sal, I wanted to ask too, what's the purpose of the investigation? Is it just to reveal more information to shine sunlight on this? It's the best disinfectant, of course. Or is any accountability going to come from this hearing for those involved here? We know a lot of civil lawsuits are ongoing from some of the victims' family members toward OceanGate and the company here. But what should be taken away from once the hearing is all said and done?
Well, the hearing will be gathering evidence, and that's what these type of processes does. And because this craft was built in the United States up in Everett, Washington, it falls under the Coast Guard here. And really, I think one of the things we're trying to do is figure out how these vessels should be categorized. One of the very interesting conversations in the hearing so far was from engineers who sat there and said, everyone in the past have built submersibles and tested them. There was a rigorous procedure for that. It was not followed in this case. Matter of fact, the very first tests were human tests. And that's almost never done in submersibles. So I think one of the things we're going to see come out of this is not just evidence, but maybe the Coast Guard putting in place some rules and regulations over submersibles. Let's not forget, this is one of the safest modes of transportation in the ocean. Really hadn't seen any loss of life in the 60 years use of submersibles until this event.
Sal, just lastly, it's been now more than a year since this all transpired, and really the world was fixated on this story for so long. Since that time, and you and I at the time had mentioned, this is going to be a watershed moment for this industry, kind of a wake-up call. Since that time, have you seen progress or not?
I think this is one of the very first steps that we're seeing. I think this hearing is bringing the light to it, and more importantly, getting these accounts on record and creating a process whereby if there are issues in other submersibles in the future, that there is a process whereby people can go. The problem is everyone's echoing the same account that this was a problem, but there was nowhere to go beyond the CEO, Stockton Rush. But the buck stopped with him. There was no Coast Guard. There was no oversight agency they can really go
They
to.
cut corners
And again,
on a lot
this
of
is an
stuff.
extremely safe process. Almost every submersible is rigorously tested. This submersible was not rigorously tested. It was left outside over the winter time and then brought back in, and it used a fairly new technology of carbon fiber to be able to be launched. So I think what we hope to see here is really prevent maybe the hubris of someone who wants to challenge the environment and not taking, paying
I can't tell what creature this is. It's like some form of jellyfish.
passengers with them into a dangerous environment as they did.
Tal, just lastly, though, I mean, we haven't seen any copycats or would-be adventurers trying to recreate this successfully, have we, or no?
Leave it alone.
No, I mean, we've seen dives on the Titanic, but they were done by submersibles that have been well tested. Again, we talked about this at the time, Andrew. Sometimes you try and push the boundary of technology. And I'm not one who's going to write off the type of technology that was in this submersible. The issue here was the proper testing and provisions that were put in place to ensure that this mode of transportation would be safe in the long time. And that was the issue. It was just not really rigorously training. We get in our car every day, drive 55 miles an hour.
So here's the front part of it. Oh my gosh. Holy Toledo. There's just nothing left. Holy crap. So we're going to actually watch the implosion Titan OceanGate, how it happened, because some people still don't know how it happened, including me. I want to know. Well, I knew what happened, but it's shocking to say the least. So let's take a look.
Implosion is a process of destruction by collapsing inwards of the object itself. Where explosion expands, implosion contracts. In the case of the Titan submersible, the implosion was caused due to very high hydrostatic pressure of the surrounding water, which happened within a fraction of a millisecond, as shown in the animation. At the depth the Titanic rests, there is around 5,600 pounds per square inch of pressure. That's almost 400 times the pressure we experience on the surface.
Jeez.
As the submersible is deep in the ocean, it experiences the force on its surface due to the water pressure. When this force becomes larger than the force hull can withstand, the vessel implodes violently. But why did this implosion happen to the Titan submersible? Existing technology is based on steel, titanium, and aluminium. These are what kept other submarines from being crushed. But the Titan has had an experimental design. It used mostly carbon fibers, which have the advantage of being lighter than titanium or steel. The properties of carbon fibers for deep-sea applications are, however, not that well understood. It can crack and break suddenly. We corrected our recent video listening to all your comments and research, so stay tuned with this corrected version and don't miss a beat. OceanGate Titan. This is not a submarine, but the Titan is a Cyclops-class manned submersible. But what's the difference between the two? The primary difference between a submersible and a submarine is that the submersible is launched from a mother vessel or home vessel. They are typically launched on a raft or platform, which is placed into the ocean, and ultimately descends via 4 electric thrusters, which helps it to reach speeds of around 3 knots. But a submarine can dive underwater without any external equipment and surface all through the process of buoyancy. These are the basic system that makes up the submersible. Number 1. The mothership named the Polar Prince, which is actually an icebreaker. Number 2. The ramp that transports the vessel up to a certain department. Number 3. The OceanGate Titan itself. Let's look at its specification. The vessel has a length of 22 feet 6.7 meters, which is pretty small considering it can go to great depths, while it has a breadth of around 9.2 feet or 2.8 meters. And it has a height of 8.3 feet or 2.5 meters. Comparing this to an average human will help us visualize how small it is. Even better, let's compare this to a small SUV to help us understand its dimension better. Interestingly, it can carry around 5 people, a pilot, and 4 passengers, who have to sit on the floor and have limited room to move around. Imagine sitting like this for 8 hours. If someone asks the question, what if nature calls? Yes, there's a toilet on the submersible, but it is only separated from the rest of the capsule by a privacy curtain located at the front of the submarine.
Gross.
The interior of the vessel is pretty simple. You will have a joystick, which is actually a video game controller, and 2 monitors to help steer the vessel. One is for the sonar, and the other one placed on the side is for steering the submersible. This is probably one of the basic deep diving submarine you will ever see. Let's move outside the submersible to understand the engineering behind it. These are the 4 electric thrusters that help steer the vessel. 2 inner space thrusters are placed in a horizontal position as shown here, and 2 more are located on both sides of the vessel are placed in a vertical position. At the back is the electronics equipment and most probably contains oxygen and navigation system. It is an unmanned part of the vessel that also has the ability to even recycle some of the carbon dioxides and pump back the regenerated 50% oxygen into the cabin. This is one of the main reasons the submersible vessel has a 96-hour oxygen as claimed by the company. Interestingly, this is the entrance made up of titanium and opens up just like this. This is the camera of the vessel, which can be viewed from one of the 2 monitors. At the front are 4 lights required for deep sea diving. With all this equipment, the submersible can go up to depths of 4,000 meters or 13,000 feet at a speed of 3 or 4 knots. Now that we have established the basic functions, let's take a look at how this works. Step number 1. Mothership, which is the Polar Prince, anchors at a particular spot where the Titanic shipwreck is located. Step number 2. The ramp slowly disembarks from the mothership along with the Titan submersible. Step number 3. It will slowly descend to a certain depth. Step number 4. The small Titan submersible will disengage from the assigned platform. Step number 5. Titan will slowly descend at a low speed of 3 or 4 knots. Step number 6. The pilot will use the joysticks to pilot the vessel. This is how it works.
I think that's so wrong.
Moving the joystick controller just like this will propel the vessel forward. Tilting the controller back will reverse the vessel with the help of the electric thrusters. If the pilot wants to turn left or right, he will just have to twist the controller and the effects will be as shown in the animations. On the left-hand side of the joystick is the down and up controller. Tilting the controls forward results in the downward descent of the vessel, and pushing the controllers down results in the upward movement of the vessel. The submersible did not even reach the wreckage of the Titanic, but suffered an implosion because of the weak carbon fiber hull. And the debris is located just 1,600 feet from the Titanic and consisted of 5 parts as shown here in the animations. Till then, check out the many engineering animations as we make original videos from...
So this is one more, which is the possible break point, because they said there was a weakened spot in the submersible. I still think it was wrong for them to use carbon fiber. Carbon fiber should be used in like, oh my gosh, 20 milliseconds. Brain pain response, 150. So they didn't feel it. Jeez. So they couldn't even process what happened to them. Holy mother. Again, this is for entertainment and education purposes only. This is not to be disrespectful towards the family at all. This is to hopefully one day make it so that this doesn't happen again. Holy Toledo. So with that being said, let me know your guys' thoughts on the information. I would like to know why
Coming up,
it took almost, well, it was more than a year for this to be shown. Why did it take that long? Hopefully this, just leave the Titanic alone. We've seen it. It's done. It's over with. Let it rest. I mean, it's been how many years now? 100 and something. Well, 1912. We're past 1912, so 100 and something years. Just leave it alone. So, comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. And we will see you guys in the next video. Please take care, be safe, and as always, keep nerding on. And we'll see you guys next time.